G'day, fitness lovers. Coach Gaz here with our fortnightly AGA Ask Gaz Anything. Got some wonderful questions here today. If you like what we're talking about, it's helpful to you, which I always hope it is. Or if you have any comments, questions, or feedback, please put them in the comments section. There's no questions or feedback, but there's a comment section which you guys can comment on and give me a thumbs up and some emojis to let me know that you're liking what I'm putting down. So I've got three main questions today. G'day Helen, nice to see you. Courtney, thank you for watching. One is, how do you keep consistent with good habits? Two is, how can I challenge or get out of common traps of self-thought and self-talk? And what's the difference between anxiety and stress is my third question for today. It is a little bit quiet on the question front. Hopefully that means you guys are all going well and you're getting the answers that you need. But if you do have any questions for AGA, put them into the fitness group. Just put the hashtag AGA and we will get to them in the next edition, I guess. So how do you keep consistent with good habits? Okay, so the first thing I'm going to say is this, is that it is all too common for people in my industry to be preachy and say you must always be, you must always dial in your health and fitness. You must always, eat the right thing, do the right thing, teetotal, always be an immaculate presentation and be 100% dialed in. The reality is it's not always true. And if it was easy for us to maintain good habits all the time, it was a set and forget thing, really the benefit of it would diminish. Part of the benefit of having good habits and working constantly to keep your consistency with good habits is the fact that you're actually working that process. See, what could be a good habit and good schedule for you this week, this month, this quarter may not actually work for you for the next quarter. So to give you an example, every time I go through a major change of circumstances or I've hit a major landmark, I've had to redevelop my schedule. And yes, there are things in an ideal world I would love to have in at a specific time and place. It's not always the way. You need to compromise. You need to take into account changing circumstances and then build a structured discipline around that. And then you have a much better chance of keeping that consistent habit in line or on track. When you do drop your habits, it's not a matter of berating yourself and going, oh, I should have done this. I always drop the ball. I stuffed up my schedule. I didn't do this. I always do this. It's about keeping a functional conversation with yourself and saying, well, this didn't work. Why didn't it work? Now, for me, I've got a lot on my plate, like a lot of us do. And for me, I can look at my schedule and I will look at it and I'll happily schedule away the entire day. Now that's an important thing, but what I didn't do up until recently was I didn't allow myself sufficient buffer times. And so what I've done now is I've put in a certain portion of buffer times into my schedule so that when things go over, when things don't go exactly to plan, it's easier for me to keep my daily schedule in check. I'm still highly scheduled. I'm still fitting in time for my habits. I've worked in the habits that I really need to up my personal performance and productivity, but I've also allowed myself buffer time. And for busy people, it can be really, it's a bit of a challenge to your mindset, speaking of challenges of mindset, to schedule in a bit of extra breathing space, but it can do wonders for you and it can do wonders for your consistency with good habits. So if you are struggling with good habits, here's some things I'd recommend that you do. One, look, you can either keep a time journal, 15 to 20 minute blocks for a week, which is an arduous process, or two, you can just be mindful of the things that are really important for you to move you forward, not just to get you through life, but to actually move you forward, because that's what we're trying to do. That's what good habits are, that productive discomfort to move you forward. Once you've got that list of it, you look down at your week and you look at your legitimate responsibilities, the things that are non-negotiables. But you start with your personal life. You start with you. And the reason being is because you are the common theme in everything. In your work, in your family, in your friendships, you are the common theme. So you need to address your personal stuff first. What do I need to get done to get through my days? What do I need to do to get my life moving forward? And what do I need to be the best version of myself? All right. And if I hit that with 80% consistency, what are the most likely outcomes of that? Then from there, you need to schedule in time for your most crucial relationships with your spouse, with your partner, with your kids, with your dog, with your cat. All right. You need to schedule those in as well. And once you get those aspects in, then you can fit in the other aspects, your working life, your business, the other things that need to get done as part of your life just to keep you moving forward. But start with your personal stuff. And if you start with your personal stuff, and every day, if you look at it, if you're constantly topping up your tank with something positive for yourself, not just for an hour or not just once, but repeatedly throughout the day in small doses, you are more likely to keep your consistent good habits because you're allowing yourself to operate at your best. The last thing I'll say with that is sleep. If you're not sleeping well, that is something that if you do it badly, it will affect everything that you do in your life. So it'll be interesting to see how I handle the next few months with a baby number 3 on the way. I am surely betting that my sleep will be affected, and I will have to rejig my schedule to adopt accordingly. How can I challenge thinking traps? This month, the focus is on Are You Okay? Now, Are You Okay is a proactive campaign about having discussions with other people. And these are discussions that you may not think that they're under a lot of stress, or they may not be presenting a lot of symptoms of being under stress, but it's about reaching out to other people in your life and just having that simple discussion of Are you okay? Now, in terms of challenging your thinking traps, we need to get better as a community, as individuals, in talking about what's going through our heads, because we often think that nobody wants to hear about it. But the more I talk to people and the more genuine conversations I have, the more I realize that people actually do want to hear what's going on with your life. They do have an element of care, and they do empathize with the challenges that we're all facing that are common to all of us. And so one of the biggest things that I want you to focus on this month in terms of a strategy to help you get out of your thinking traps is start talking, having the conversation with others, asking if they're okay, and having others ask the same question to you. And just taking that 20 seconds of courage to be open and upfront and really kind of open yourself up. Once you do that, you also, from a practical perspective, get an outsider's point of view, right? You might talk to a friend who's emotionally attached to you, they care about you, they're not there to give their opinions, they're just there to reflect what you're saying back to you. And you're dealing with a human-to-human connection. And then once you get someone reflecting back what you're saying to them back to you and holding that mirror up, it can often help you bust out of those traps. And it doesn't matter if you fall into that trap once, twice, 10 times, you can always get out of the trap. So in terms of challenging your thinking traps, this is my challenge to you. Get into the Are You Okay? You don't have to sign up to anything, but get into that practice of having other people help you hold a mirror up to what you're currently going through, because that's a major way to get forward and to get to bust out of those traps. And what's the difference between anxiety and stress is my last question. By the way, if you guys are liking this, just let me know, yeah? So look, stress is a coverall. So stress is an umbrella term that we use to refer to a threat to our well-being. It's a threat to our system, to our survival. And any given situation can have a stress. From a neurological perspective and a hormonal perspective and a neuromuscular perspective, basically from a systemic perspective, our brain doesn't differentiate between it being a bill, being a difficult conversation, being a work thing. It just identifies as stress. And so our response to that situation is that's where the stress comes from, right? Our body deals with that short-term survival instinct in order to help us get through that moment. Now, the thing is with stress is that we don't always necessarily release that stress or deal with it effectively. And so a short-term survival instinct becomes a long-term problem. Now, anxiety, on the other hand, is a sustained, continued mental health condition, and it can be triggered by stress. So if you're a highly anxious person and you've been dealing with it, you may have a stressor that's completely unrelated on the surface to anything else in your life, but your stress response is amplified It is exaggerated because you constantly got this anxiety going on. So they're two separate things. Stress could be anything that sets off a normal or a response within the brain and the body. But anxiety is an underlying condition that can amplify the effects of stress. So if you are dealing with anxiety, or you're feeling highly stressed and you're feeling more anxious, my suggestion is start to look at the things that you can control and influence. What I talked about at the start: staying consistent with your good habits, pulling things in that top up your tank on a daily basis, multiple times during the day, closing the loops of things that you have left open because they're uncomfortable to deal with and they needed to be dealt with. Taking a look of your own self-care, your mental health, your discussions, your relationships with other people. All of these things can help you get more of a handle on your anxiety and help reduce that stress response. Having grown up with anxiety and compartmentalizing into social anxiety, when I started to realize how widespread it affected every other area of my life, it gave me a lot more to work with. And a lot of the things that I do now, I do to make sure that I now use my anxiety as a early warning system. It's actually an indicator of when I have or haven't been looking after myself. If it's low and I feel like I'm responding in not in a sensible way, but in a way that's not exaggerated, I know that I've been doing good things for myself, and I feel it in everything that I do. Everything is amazing. But if I haven't been looking after myself, or I've been under the pump and not topping up my tank a lot, my anxiety levels will creep up, and that's my early warning system to go, hang on, Gaz, step back a second and look what's been going on. This is why you're feeling so stressed and so anxious. So hopefully that's helpful. All right. I did present to a big business group today, so I'm a little bit talked out, but hopefully that's helpful. Thank you for tuning in to AGA, can't even say it. Ask Gaz Anything. We will be back in 2 weeks. Submit your questions. Love to help you out. If you found today useful, please let me know. If it gave you some insight and just helped you out a little, let me know. If you feel like you need other elements into this session, please let me know as well. I'd love to keep these going and love to keep supporting you all through a time of constant challenge and change. This is Coach Gaz, tuning out. I'll see you guys next time.